Nearly 2 days of searching with rain and wind and smoke, making every minute excruciating in the task of getting through the pancaked rubble that was once a Surfside, Florida condo complex. It is hard not to compare this tragic scene with Ground Zero in New York, as heroic rescuers pick and probe and mine through the debris, trying to find signs of life. Tonight, the latest on what they have discovered and what they haven't, as a trapped survivor from 9/11 tells us the experience of waiting for his rescue. And later, George Floyd's death ignited a movement. Derek Chauvin's trial captivated a nation. And now the judge has issued a final sentence. 22 and a half years behind bars. Does that punishment fit the crime? Hear what the judge did say and hear what the judge didn't say in court tonight on Banfield. As we speak, they are digging through the rubble in Surfside, Florida. They are steps away from the tranquility of the Atlantic Ocean, and yet the scene of twisted metal and active fires as they search for survivors is anything but serene. For the very latest, I want to bring in NewsNation Miami correspondent Brian ENTIN, who is with us, as well as NewsNation Prime anchor MARNI Hughes. Both are on the scene in Florida at the Champlain Tower. Brian, I want to begin with you with the very latest on what they are still doing in the dark of night, 10 o'clock Eastern. Are they as active on that pile, looking for any signs of life as they were in the first 24 hours?
Yeah, actually, they're very active right now. They are continuing this search and rescue. Last night, when we talked to you, there were 99 missing people, and it is just unbelievable and really gut-wrenching to think that just 24 hours later, there are now officially 159 missing people. So 60 more missing added to the list today. I look over my shoulder behind me. You can see that haze behind me. That is actually smoke. There has been a fire that has been burning at the collapse site for the last day or so. We've seen it really spark up at times throughout today where this entire area will fill with smoke. Right now, it's not nearly as bad as we've seen it, but that's been a big issue for these search and rescue crews today as they try to continue to look for survivors. Ashley.
So, Brian, the fires, the heavy wind, the pounding rain at times today, the heat, not to mention that those searchers who are on the pile have a very unstable building above them. And there was an excavator that was there today trying to chip away, I'm assuming, at some of the dangerous debris that potentially could fall. Are they continuing that?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that happened today that was really unnerving for these search and rescue crews is that the debris shifted. You mentioned the weather. There were several thunderstorms that moved through. Very, very heavy rain. Florida summer afternoon thunderstorms. It almost feels like a tropical storm or hurricane for a couple of minutes. And the issue is, I spoke with some of these searchers earlier, is that it adds weight to the concrete and to the pile, and so that becomes a major issue. And then you've got the fire burning on top of that.
And then the other question I had for you, Brian, is that we've seen a lot of search dogs in videos that come out from the scene. And I'm just wondering if they've had any hits, if the crews have gone close to where the dogs may have alerted.
So from what I have learned, yesterday there were some hits with the dogs, and there were also noises that were picked up, what's been described today as a tapping. There were other noises today in the morning that search crews heard, but here's the issue. The fire makes noise. It makes noise under there, and as they put water on the fire, that also makes noise. So that's an issue with the microphones that they're using, and then also the rain and the weather also complicates that. So while they're hearing noises, they're not exactly sure what those noises are at this point.
So the other distressing aspect of I'm sure, not just covering this story, but also those who are desperate, is that the numbers aren't changing. And Brian, I cannot help but think how similar it was during 9/11 when we waited for people to be found and for the numbers of the unaccounted for to go down, whether being pulled out alive or being found dead. And I'm sure that is extremely distressing for all involved.
Absolutely, and you can imagine, I mean, we're talking about 159 families. I mean, you hear the number 159, but when you're here, you realize, because you see them, because they come down here to the site, these are 159 families right now that do not know where their loved ones, and many of them are still holding on to hope. So yes, it's extremely distressing. It was distressing tonight at 8:15 when the mayor had her final press conference tonight. Everyone was hoping that that number would lower. And she came out just now a couple of hours ago and said, unfortunately, we're still at 159.
I remember that mayor, Brian, saying earlier that the cell phones that families were calling their loved ones cell phones. And early in this disaster, the phones could be heard ringing, but the mayor saying by this morning they just weren't ringing anymore. Brian, stand by, if you will. I want to bring in MARNI Hughes, NewsNation Prime anchor. MARNI, I know that you've been watching very carefully the other side of this, and that is the families and how they're being treated. As Brian said, 159 unaccounted people means a lot of family members are in that area and looking for help, as well as those who've lost their homes.
Right. Ashley, I think tonight there is a fine line between hope and anguish, because as you look at the rubble, you hope that they will still find signs of life under all of that debris. But the reality is, with 159 people still unaccounted for, the death toll will rise. But the families are out here, as Brian said, and they're watching the search continue, and they're together. Watching them is heartbreaking, because they're hugging one another, they're crying. Some are sitting by themselves in silence. I saw an older woman comforting a teenage girl that looked about the age of my daughter, and I thought, you know, how tragic. And I wondered, who is she missing right now? Is it her mother? Is it her grandmother? And that's the heartache that being out here really sinks in. Is you see, one, the destruction, but you see the fear and the panic and the pain in their eyes as they sit and wait as patiently as anyone could for any type of answers. The other thing, Ashley, is the survivors. I mean, just to hear their stories, that they were literally a doorway away from crumbling to the ground. I talked to one family. Mom and dad were asleep at the time. The son and daughter were in the other room, the living room, watching TV. They heard 3 bangs, and then everything started to shake. The pendant lights started to shake. The chandelier started to shake. And then this boom. And dad came out and said what happened, and then they found themselves trying to escape. They walked out their door one step, and their neighbor's apartment was gone. Take a listen to 22-year-old Justin from New Jersey, who was here this week on vacation.
I was in the living room watching TV, which it's a 1-bedroom, so my parents are asleep on the other side of the wall. I was watching TV. It's probably 1:20, and it kind of ended up just being 3 loud bangs or gusts of wind, basically, is what we thought. And the first one was kind of a normal, like, heavy wind on the beach, kind of what you expect. The second one was kind of what I remember from Sandy, because we live in an apartment building at home in New Jersey. So the sliding doors start to kind of bend and give. The third one, it felt like a plane went right over our heads at the building. And we'll look to our left, the unit to our left, their door was caved in. And then half of the hallway, you could kind of start to see outside into, like, towards the beach, and the elevator shaft is basically completely dented in and in front of our door.
So, Ashley, this family then walked out of their apartment. The elevator is gone. They look down a dark hallway. All there is left is a stairwell. Half of the stairs are gone, and on one side of the stairs is basically a cliff to the outside. So they make their way down from what was the 11th floor of this building. They get to the 3rd floor, and they encounter an elderly woman also in the dark trying to make their way down. Now the 5 of them get to the basement, and they find themselves in 3 feet of water in the dark, and they climb through the rubble, somehow out of the building, onto the pool deck where there is even more debris. They can't see anything. The pool tiles are crumbling below them. They hoist this elderly woman over this debris, get out on the beach, turn around, and they see what has happened. And Albert, the dad, said it took his breath away. He said, "We have some guardian angels watching out for us. We don't know how we were so lucky to have survived this, but we thank God that we did." And today they're trying to digest that so many others did not.
So, Marnie, thank God for organizations like the Red Cross. I can personally report, because I work for the Red Cross, that they've been there with food and water and comfort items, with mental health professionals to help those who've had to endure what they've gone through. And I do appeal to our viewers to please send money to the Red Cross. Don't send items. They ask, don't send items. They can't sort through them. They need the money. That helps the most. Marnie, one more thing. We were just looking at a picture earlier, as well as these remarkable aerial shots that show the devastation, but of the emergency vehicles, dozens and dozens of emergency vehicles lined up. And the camera shot was sort of going through them at fast rate because there are so many of them. I think I heard you report earlier that they are going to expand the perimeter and start moving in really heavy equipment and change the traffic patterns. So the heavy equipment, I can only assume, is to continue the process of lifting those massive slabs, correct?
Right. So they have engineers on site that are testing, constantly evaluating the structural integrity of the building to make sure that it's safe for the searchers. But they have brought in these large cranes, and they're ready to use them once the engineers clear them to do so. But in order to get these gigantic cranes in here to what really are a lot of tight little streets that line the beach, they have to clear the traffic. And, you know, add to that you have media from around the world. I have seen people from multiple countries here because, one, many people are represented in this tragedy, but there is curiosity from so many about how this happened, why this happened, and how we prevent it from happening in the future. So trying to clear this area to let them do their work is a monumental task, but they do have a lot of volunteers, and that has been what is most impressive tonight, is the support and comfort offered by this community. Surfside just has wrapped their arms around everyone who is here, us included, and it has really been heartwarming, but most of all, the families know that they're loved.
I mean, I've heard Israel, Paraguay, Argentina, Venezuela among some of the places where people are visiting from to that particular building. Marnie and Brian, thank you both for your extraordinary reporting. I know it's not easy down there emotionally or physically in the conditions you're in. Thank you. When we come back, buried alive under the rubble of the World Trade Center, Pete PANUCCIO knows what it is like to keep hope alive while waiting to be rescued. He's going to join us next to describe his ordeal in the moment he saw those rescuers for the first time. Any sign of life. Any sign. That's what the first responders in Surfside, Florida are searching for under each and every piece of rubble, in the garage, through the water. I want to bring in a man who is all too familiar with this kind of rescue operation. Pete PANUCCIO was a member of the New York City Police Department on September 11th, 2001. He was dispatched to rescue victims in the World Trade Center, but suddenly he became a victim himself when the building came crashing down on top of him. He was buried beneath the rubble for 15 hours, waiting to be rescued. And thank God he was. Pete, it is honestly so good to talk to you at all, but to also be able to ask you for your insight into what might, and I hope to God, is happening if someone is still alive and has yet to be rescued.
Well, the main thing is, don't give up hope, and not to panic. During the first collapse, myself and a lieutenant and two old men ran into the lobby of number 7 during the first collapse, and figuring we'd have overhead, we'd be safe. And that entire lobby came crashing in on top of us with debris. And the immediate reaction is, I'm gonna die here. I've gotten myself into something I can't get out of. And when the realization hits that, okay, I'm not dead, get up and make yourself useful, you know, you get to work. And we got the old men out of there. We got separated, but I stayed in the building to, you know, get as many people out. One of the things you notice is you really start to lose your senses, one of which is vision. You're just in a dusty smoke-filled corridor. It's tough to maneuver. When I got out of that building and I wound up on Vesey and West Street, I was only there for maybe 2-3 minutes, and somebody yelled that the tower was leaning, the second tower. I had no idea that the entire first tower had come down. And literally, we took off running. We made it to the first fire truck. And as bad as the first collapse was, the second collapse was a lot worse because we were caught in the open. But the immediate thing that hits you is it's just deathly silent. You can't breathe, and it's pitch black. But the silence was the thing that will always stick with me. And I knew the last points of contact I had with my last visual inputs was, I know there's a fire truck here. But once I took my hand off that fire truck, I was lost. I couldn't tell you which way was up, which way was down, no idea. There was absolutely no noise. Sound couldn't travel because the air was so filled with dirt. Everything was done by sight. You maneuvered underneath the truck by crawling. I ran into a guy I hadn't seen in years. He happened to be in back of that truck, and we thought we were actually in a pocket under the rubble. And it took a bit to keep the people calm that were there. I know it's not easy, but you need to remain calm. There were pockets. There weren't that many people that got out of the Trade Center, out of those little pockets of safety. There were a few. I know a couple of stories, firemen and emergency service guys, and it took a while to get them.
You did.
Mostly.
And I'm curious about when you started to hear the voices of the rescuers above you in the rubble, and when you started to see daylight as they were essentially clearing the rubble and making way to get you. And I am hoping that that's going to be a story that's repeated in Miami.
Well, basically in a situation like that, where we're the first responders, at that point during when the collapse first happened, we were rescuing ourselves. It was just overwhelming. And I told people, like, listen, they know we're here, all right? There's cops and firemen here. They know we're here. And that was a lie. I had to keep them calm. And we just banded together, and we eventually saw light start to come through. And at that point, I says, let's see if we can move in that direction. But you're still totally discombobulated. You have no forward visibility. You can't tell what's around you. People were tripping over stuff. There was just a tremendous amount of debris that you're climbing over. And you're literally a blind person feeling your way out of this. We were lucky. We had a path where we could get ourselves out once we saw some light. A lot of other people weren't that lucky. I feel for these guys in Miami, and when I look at these photos of those guys in the garage, my entire body seized up when I saw that. They're in such a dangerous position down there in the garage, underwater. That thing could go in any second. Even when we were going to go back on the pile that afternoon, you knew it was shifting. There was one false move, and it could be a guy 100 feet away from you, and the next thing you know, people are dropping 20, 30 feet down.
This is you. Really, Pete, I'm just thinking as you're saying that, you're looking at these guys. This was you. You were one of the first responders coming to help, and it ended up the building, coming down on you after the first two towers had come down. You were in building 7, and I'll tell you what, I know exactly what happened because it happened right as I was on camera with it. I literally was broadcasting live as it came down right behind me. So this is the first time you and I have met 20 years later, but I know exactly where you were and what happened. Pete, you were trapped for 15 hours, as I understand it. I was there for 15 hours working in the rubble. I was only trapped in that initial part that morning during the tower collapses, but we dug ourselves out. And not far from you, like, as I understand, 20, 30 feet away, there were groups of people who had not survived what you'd been through.
Yeah, it came down, you know, I often say this, there was as much tragedy as there was that morning, there were just as many miracles. There's really no reason why myself and the little band that got in that, we were just incredibly lucky. Just forward of us on South on Vesey Street, that's where the 2nd Fire Command Post was set up. And they were wiped out. And it was, we didn't even know they were there. And they were in the middle of the intersection and they were buried. The 2 firefighters that I brought down with me also perished that morning. You really couldn't tell, other than maybe 10 or 15 feet, what was going on around you at any given time.
I certainly hope that there are stories like yours, at least, that you can get out, you know, that in Miami there'll still be people found alive. When I see those bucket brigades in Miami, I'm just brought right back to your story in 9/11 and what happened to you. And thank you for being here tonight to share it, Pete, because, you know, we owe you a debt of gratitude, and I'm appreciative that you're there to tell us about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Massive buildings just aren't supposed to come crashing down around you. They're just not, especially when they have hundreds and hundreds of people inside. So why did the Champlain Tower do just that? I'm going to talk to a man who might know better than anyone, because forensics with buildings, that's his specialty.
It's an explanation that you know, we don't want to get wrong, obviously, but at the same time, I do think it's important that it's timely, because you have a lot of families here. You have families that lost loved ones in this building collapse.
Governor Ron DeSantis saying that we need a definitive explanation as to why this happened. It's been almost 48 hours since the condo complex just north of Miami Beach collapsed, and we still don't know why. No idea. Joining us now is someone who actually chases those answers for a living. Forensic and structural engineer Craig Moskowitz is president of CLM Engineering Associates. You know, Craig, I have heard a lot of things. And while we're on a search and rescue, it hasn't turned to recovery yet. People are already asking, how on earth could this happen? I've heard sinkholes. I've heard nearby construction. I have heard shoddy building, perhaps, salt spray in the concrete. What is the number one thing that you think might be a direction to investigate?
Sure. At this point, Ashley, I don't think there's any one particular focus. Obviously, it's in the preliminary stages. No one really has all the facts yet. But there are different factors. I'd seriously be concerned about the adjacent construction. You know, what was the nature of that construction? How close was that construction being undertaken in respect to the subject building? What were they doing there? Were they going down 30 feet? Were they installing piles? Were they blasting? A lot of unanswered questions, because there's certain precautions to take when performing adjacent construction.
You know, interesting, Craig. I think I've heard you mention something about frequency and vibrations, which can actually travel, you know, next door to a building. So, for instance, this multi-million-dollar, hundreds of million-dollar condo was just gone up right beside the Champlain Towers. People in the towers were complaining about noise and vibration, et cetera. And I think I heard you say at some point, frequency and vibration can affect a building structure.
In some cases, it can. In other words, that's the reason why municipalities in pretty much every state in the union has stringent requirements for monitoring of adjacent construction when you're installing a new building. And the primary reason is to prevent excessive ground disturbance, which can result in the shifting of foundation under an existing building, can cause cracks in a building, can cause, even in many cases, unfortunately, a partial collapse.
So, Craig, I have heard that, listen, once we turn to recovery, that entire pile that looks like it is, you know, indiscernible will actually be transported to a location and reset, very much like an airplane accident gets reconstructed and the pieces get put together to try to determine what well, I can't imagine how that can happen with this, but it really does?
Yes, there's a very detailed investigatory process that's to be undertaken. Similar to what you just mentioned, an airplane crash. basically it's a process whereby reconstruction efforts are undertaken, putting the pieces of the puzzle together to try to determine the cause and origin. And that's also the role of a forensic engineer in many cases, determine were there structural beam failures? Was there a primary beam failure? What was there a problem with the concrete? Was the original mix design inferior at the time of original construction? Did it change over time due to exposure to the coastal environment, to the water, to the elements? Did these elements cause a degradation of the concrete whereby the elements in the water caused premature corrosion of the steel rebar within the concrete? Those are some of the things that will be investigated most likely.
So, Craig, I had heard that in 1974 there was a concrete building that collapsed in Miami, and that it was a massive crisis that led to a lot of changes in building code. And then, you know, along came another collapse of a building in process of construction in '85. Hurricane Andrew also really sort of you know, set in stone a lot of the rules that are in place. And one of those rules, I think you just alluded to them, was a mixture within the concrete that actually prevents against the salt corrosion and maybe the rebar within the concrete. Is it possible to skirt that, though? I mean, my God, these are oceanfront condos. Is it possible to skirt those rules?
It does happen. You know, certain times. I'm not saying any building officials didn't conduct their jobs properly or local inspectors, but things are overlooked at times. There's unfortunately a lot of oversight in the industry. It's too early to tell if that's the case here. That may be a contributing factor. I'm just not sure at this point. There may be defects from the time of the original construction, so it is possible whereby, in other words, the original plans and or specs for the construction of this subject structure weren't adhered to in some respects, or defective and or inferior material was originally used on the apartment building. Unfortunately, I don't like to say that, but it is possible.
Well, Craig, I really appreciate your expertise here. There's so many questions that still have to be answered. Maybe you'll come back and help us sort through this as this disaster continues to unfold. Craig Moskowitz, thank you for that. And coming up next, former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin sentenced for the murder of George Floyd. Some say justice was done, some say not nearly enough, but I can tell you what the judge said because I got the sentencing memorandum, all 22 pages of it. You might be surprised by some of the things that went into his decision-making. Emotions have run high throughout the trial of Derek Chauvin. Marches and protests and riots erupting worldwide in support of George Floyd. But today, you could have heard a pin drop in the courtroom as the one man who holds all the cards told Derek Chauvin what his punishment would be. But not before we heard from the most important people affected by the crime, Floyd's family, and Chauvin's family, too. Judge Peter Cahill handed down his sentence without any drama, saying that it was not the place for being profound or clever. He was instead rather matter-of-fact.
As sentenced for count one, the court commits you to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 270 months. That's 270. That is a 10-year addition to the presumptive sentence of 150 months. This is based on your abuse of a position of trust and authority, and also the particular cruelty shown to George Floyd. You are granted credit for 199 days already served. Pay the mandatory surcharge of $78 to be paid from prison wages. You're prohibited from possessing firearms, ammunition, or explosives for the remainder of your life. Provide a DNA sample as required by law. Register as a predatory offender as required by law. And then you will receive a copy of the order and also the attached memorandum explaining the court's analysis.
270 months, also known as 22 and a half years. Too little? Too much? I'm joined by Court TV anchor and former prosecutor Julie Grant and renowned trial attorney and co-host of Beyond a Reasonable Doubt podcast, Mark Geragos. Julie, let me begin with you in the straight reporting of this. Were you surprised at 22 and a half years?
Ashley, good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. I was a little surprised. I was thinking that the court would fall more in line with what the state was asking for. They were asking for 30, and they really justified it well in the memorandum of law they wrote in support of the sentencing they were hoping to have today. And they were looking at that top number of the sentencing range, that number 15. 10 is at the bottom, 15 at the top, and 12.5 in the middle. And they were wanting to double that number because of those 4 aggravators. And today it was surprising to me that his Honor only found that 2 of the aggravating factors, the particular cruelty in the way the crime was carried out and the abuse of Derek Chauvin's position of authority, existed in order to support the departure upwardly from those guidelines. So yes, a little surprised that it wasn't a little heavier.
I was surprised until I read the memorandum, the 22 pages, and then I started to understand why. Let me put those 4 aggravating factors up, because this will make sense to people who maybe are trying to figure out how the judge got there, why the judge didn't go lower, why the judge didn't go higher. The 4 that, you know, the prosecutors had asked for an upward departure were based on this. Defendant abused his position of authority. The victim was treated with particular cruelty. The defendant committed a crime as a part of a group, and the crime was committed in front of multiple children. And don't take that graphic down, because I want to address those. In the memorandum, the judge said those top 2, the defendant abused the authority and it was particularly cruel. The judge agreed with that. But those bottom 2, that this wasn't part of a crime as a group and it wasn't committed in front of multiple children, that's not necessarily what he didn't agree with. What he actually wrote in his memorandum was that the children, he didn't feel were as traumatized, or that the trial proved that these children were traumatized. He actually said the evidence showed the kids were laughing and smiling, so that maybe that factor shouldn't be part of this. And then that group aspect, the judge actually wrote in the memorandum that those other officers didn't know they were part of a crime, so that the group fell away. There was also a 5th one that the judge noted, the particularly vulnerable George Floyd. It's not on there, but the judge dismissed it anyway. So, Mark Geragos, going to that, does that help to really explain that the judge just did this with dispassionate jurisprudence and said, this is the math? And he looked at other cases. They're in here. The other cases that were the same, the plus 10 kind of made sense on, you know, the presumptive range. Did it make sense to you?
Yes, but not as not from the legal standpoint that you just read it. I mean, I always thought, because of Officer Noor, who was the officer who had the one shot that killed tragically a woman and was convicted of 3rd-degree murder and a manslaughter, he received 12.5 years, I believe. And you'll remember, his is the case that went up to the Minnesota appellate courts and then caused the murder of the 2nd degree to be reinstated here through a series of things. I have thought, if you had asked me, and I don't want to be flip about it, but that this judge, based on the trial, when you took a look at the way he made decisions, he tried to always come down the middle, and here he kind of did. The prosecutors were asking for 30. The defense obviously was asking for probation, but the presumptive was 12.5 to 15. If you take the 30 and the 15, you get 45, you divide it by 2, you're at 22.5. I always think, I know that when you look at it, and he's got the memorandum, that you think he's actually doing this kind of geometric calculation. I always, call me a cynic. I think it's reverse engineering. I think he knew he was not going to go to 30 years. I think 22.5 is exactly, if you would ask me to bet.
I'll tell you what, Julie, I want you to jump in, because as a professor and also someone who just lives literally in a courtroom for Court TV, the memorandum, he mentioned it. The judge said, I'm not going to go on and on in my statement in court. You can go ahead and read the 22 pages if you want. Which made me think, but wait a minute, you've got the memorandum ready, everything's ready to go before you've heard from these people, the victim's impact and the mother of Derek Chauvin. Let me just play 2 things so that our audience knows what the judge saw, even though the memorandum was written. First, I want to show you one of the victim's impact statements. It was the daughter of George Floyd, Gianna Floyd, who came in via cell phone. Take a look at this.
And when you see your daddy again one day, what do you want to do when you see him?
I want to play with him.
If you could say anything to your daddy right now, what would it be?
It would be, I miss you and I love you.
That is very powerful to see that in a courtroom. I should mention George Floyd's brother and nephew also gave powerful impact statements. And then George Floyd's mother, or rather Derek Chauvin's mother, I was sort of so shocked to see her for the first time speak. And look, there's a victim too, right? She's someone's mom and she's losing her son too. So I want to play what she had to say. Take a look.
My happiest moment is when I gave birth to you. And my second is when I was honored to pin your police badge on you. I remember you whispering to me, "Don't stick me with it." Derek, I want you to know I have always believed in your innocence, and I will never waver from that.
She went on to say that she was so upset about how he's been depicted in the media and by the prosecutors and by the public, and said that that's not the man that we know. So, Julie, I always thought, maybe I'm Pollyanna, that judges take into account those passionate pleas in the courtroom, that even if it's just a little bit, it might make a difference in the sentencing, but this was already written. It was all set to go. So I guess I'm wrong.
Ashley, you are so smart. You're always on the ball. Yes, you're so smart to pick up on that this judge, an excellent judge, very thoughtful, as Mark pointed out earlier, very fair, very down the middle in his rulings. I think he had been thinking about what he was going to do today, probably right when that verdict came in back in April. So certainly a very thoughtful decision, and we would hate to think that it doesn't matter. I certainly don't want anyone at home to think that anything that any of those individuals we heard from today fell on deaf ears. It didn't. I'm sure His Honor took into account how they would feel in those respective positions on both sides of this case, Derek Chauvin's mother, and of course the Floyd family, who is heartbroken and devastated about this. And I'm so glad you played that clip of little Gianna, because you're right, Ashley, I mean, she just really stole the hearts of the world today, as she did after her dad was killed, and she's going to go on to do big things. And I'm sure the judge was mindful of George Floyd's family when he was authoring this memorandum. But of course he has to apply the law to the facts, and very carefully so. So as you pointed out, obviously you read that very carefully. You caught what was even in the footnotes, Ashley. Of course you would, because of how careful you are with your legal journalism. And yes, in those footnotes, he was saying he just did not believe that those young bystanders who were minors really were traumatized by the incident, one of those reasons. And then, of course, that fourth aggravator with the other participants, that was always a little bit troubling to me, because there haven't been criminal convictions for those three individuals. Their cases, as you know, Ashley, are still hanging in the balance, set to go March 8th of next year.
Which, by the way, is interesting on tactically. First of all, remember, Eric Nelson waived jury on the aggravating factors. You were entitled to a jury determination on that. He did not want them to make that determination. Turned out that that was a smart move. Number two, some of the language that you talked about, Ashley, is, I think, it's not a collateral estoppel, but it certainly gives you a window into what the judge is thinking in terms of the last three that still have not been tried, and now probably won't be tried in his courtroom first, will probably lateral over to the federal court.
Right. Well, I'm glad you said that, because when we come back after the break, I want to talk about the federal cases, because 22.5 years, we're only at the beginning. There are at least another 2 cases potentially coming to Derek Chauvin's, future. And then there are the other officers as well. We're going to talk all about that and just how long he will actually spend behind bars next.